Thompson with me. D Passions, if y'all don't know. Let me just tell you. D Passions, if you guys don't know. Let me just read some. Give me a minute, because you know this is really, it's really small font, and you know, I'm a little old. I'm not old, but it's like really small font that I have. But I just want to give you just a quick synopsis of who she actually is. Denise is an educator, a poet. She's a motivational speaker. She also is a fitness instructor.
See the guy?
You see that? Trini girl. And one gal. So she has published 6 books of poetry, 2 picture books, and she empowers an empowerment guide for girls. She's developed a resume of youth for empowerment through her work as a literacy specialist. Tell us about that.
So this is my 4th year working at Passages Academy, and we work with incarcerated youth. So I work one-on-one and small groups, and I'm the reading specialist for the site. So because I am the reading specialist for the site, I have room to do a lot of other work, and I do that in different ways. I do poetry writing sessions, I have writer's notebook sessions, and I just try to get my kids to really look at incarceration as a way that they can break through it from their minds.
So, I talk about this a lot on my show, how the system is actually set up to keep anyone who has been incarcerated as a youth or as a man, and it's set up to keep our men down. It's not a rehabilitation. There's nothing for them. Most men think that once they have a record, they are tarnished for the rest of their lives. So how does what you do help these young men see that is not the case?
So I'll say this. Before, when I first started working with our boys and our young ladies, I was one of those mothers who always felt like it could never be my child, right? I had that attitude. And my first year of working with incarcerated youth, my son got arrested. And I had to go to court, and I was seeing some of my students at court. The difference was my son's father was in his life, and we were able to put ourselves in a place where we could fight for our child, right? So I had to bring that lesson that I had to learn back into my classroom. I had to look at my boys and my girls like my own kids. So my whole vision for them changed, because it could be your child, it could be your son, it can be your brother, it can be your uncle, it could be, right? And being incarcerated is not just physically being incarcerated, it's a mental incarceration that our kids have to fight through. And for me, writing is the key to breaking through that. So through these workshops, just being able to show my boys and my girls, like, the pen is your weapon of choice. This is what we do. I had one of the young ladies, she actually published her own book of poetry before she left. So she was able to walk out of her 7 months that she served with us with a book, turning her pain into passion. That's what we do. So even though you're locked up, you don't have to be locked up in your mind. That's a lesson we have to teach our kids.
Woo! Wait a minute, Cece. You just almost made me cry like 4 times. I was like, oh, Jesus, Dorena, don't cry. For real. And it's not even to make a joke out of it. It's like you feel passionate about situations like this. And when you look at our youth and the people who are growing up, and I love the fact that you just said that it's not just the young men, it's young ladies who get themselves caught up, because a lot of the times there's stereotypes. So when you think about certain situations, you would think more so of a female in that situation, and then in another situation you would think more so of a male in that situation. And what people don't realize is that, unfortunately, in our society, we have young men and women going through the same exact issues.
Yes.
And unfortunately, your son, let me just say, not even unfortunately, because I was going to say something, but fortunately your son had his mother and his father.
Yes.
He was raised in a household with a 2-parent household, which many kids don't grow up in. And sometimes when they grow up even in a single household, their parents are not where they need to be to defend their children.
The sad part about it was when we went down to the probation's office, there wasn't even a spot on the paperwork for a father's name. It was only mother's. Okay, so we had to basically go up and say, can I put my husband's name on this sheet? Because he is a part of my son's life. So that's to tell you the mindset of the system that we're working against, right? So right now we are moms on a mission because we need community support. We need people to be aware that if I was not working where I was working at that moment of my son's life, my son would have been incarcerated. But being there, I saw the things that needed to be done. So before we even got back to court, I found him a mentoring program. I reached out. I created a proposal. And when we went to court, the lawyer put me on the stand. And it was so crazy because the prosecutor was sitting there laughing at my son's lawyer. Why is he putting her on the stand? But he didn't know I'm a mom who's going to fight for my child. You understand what I'm saying? And working in the system, you see, it's not a place that you want anybody's child. Yes, we give our kids the best because we know that they can be our kids, right? But that's not a place that you will want to see your son, your brother, anyone, at all. So it's like right now we're reaching out to the community. We need more support. Our boys don't just need, and our girls don't just need the support while they're incarcerated. A lot of them go home to the same situation, same families, same friends, get rearrested, and then they come right back to us. And if they're too old to come back to us, they send them to Rikers, and that's a whole nother playing field, right? So we're really on a mission to save our boys and our girls, and we need the support from the community.
So this is exactly what I'm trying to pick on my show, is that there's so many different elements of our community that need support. And there's so many people out here, unfortunately, that say, oh yeah, we need this and we need that, and they give their opinions. However, you don't take the stand for it. You don't take the time for it. You don't take the time to mentor somebody or say, you know what, how about you spend a Saturday with me? Like, what people don't realize is that what these kids need is exactly what they're lacking. They're lacking somebody to inspire them. They're lacking somebody to actually look up to. I grew up, and I say this a lot of times, I grew up in Edenwald Project, which is not too far from where the studio is at. And let me tell you something. I've done things in my life that could have put me under the jail. I've done things in my life, and not, when I say put me in the jail, what I'm saying is the system. Because I never did anything so bad, because people, they start coming for you like, what she did? What did?
Wolverine.
No, but I remember selling drugs for a day in my life. If my mother knew that, she would kill me right now. She know now. No, but I say this because I can say that I stepped away from that, knowing that wasn't, and it was more so because I have always had that popularity. That I felt like, and the most people when you're in the hood, the people who are most popular are the most people who are committing crimes. And let's be real about it. Let's be real about it. The people who are looked up to are the ones committing crimes. And that's it. I'm sorry to say it, but I'm just going to put it out on the front street. In the hood, the people who are doing what they're supposed to do, or doing right by the community, or doing right for their lives, are not the ones that are most popular. And that's what it is. And unfortunately, because I grew up with this, I just had this personality that I was cool with everybody. I was cool with the people who were not doing right. And so I realized that, I remember as a young girl holding guns for people. Thinking that, I could. No! Except if I would have got arrested, it would have been over for me forever. I would have always had that on my record. And this is the system that we also live in. It's unfortunate, but the system, like you said, you fought for your child, and they're laughing at you. Like the prosecutor's like,
exactly.
They're looking at you like, what is she gonna do? Oh, you thought that I was gonna be some mother who just grew up in the Bronx and I can't speak articulately,
exactly.
Or that he's not from a well home.
Exactly.
And the last 2 weeks, was it 2 weeks ago that I had that pastor on my show, Demas. He wrote the book Street God. He was a big time drug dealer. He came from a household where his mother was an assistant principal and his father was a correctional officer. So it's not necessarily the environment that you grow up in. It's the influence that a lot of people don't realize too. It's the influences in music and movies and in being cool that our communities end up in this situation. So what I want to ask you next is, I know that you yourself, you were passionate definitely because your son was incarcerated. I mean, not incarcerated, but he got he got arrested in legal actions. But you continued because a lot of the times, and let's be real about it, a lot of people are advocates when it hits home. But once their situation has resolved, then they forget about it. But you've continued. You've continued on with that. And I commend you for that. But what makes you continue? Because it's not an easy struggle. It's not an easy fight that you do.
It's not. And there are days when I cry at work. But again, you look at our boys and say, if I don't do it, who's going to do it for them? If I don't show them that there is another way, who's going to do it for them? I told one of my boys, if you don't make it, someone else is not going to make it. We have to look at our community, our boys, they are the way out. And we have to understand that, like you said, they are the ones who go back to the communities. They are the ones who people are looking up to, right? So just imagine, if you take that drug deal and you turn him around, imagine the change that can happen in the community once that drug dealer goes home. If we change one of our boys before they go home, if we change one of our girls before they go home, imagine the change that can happen in the community. I mean, we need to have a continual process. It can't just be, oh, I'm going to do it today, and I'm not going to do it tomorrow. When I look at those kids, I see them as being my kids. I've said, yes, I have one natural born son, but I've adopted many over the years. And that keeps me going. The pain that you see in their eyes. Some of my boys will not say it, but when they actually start writing and you read the pain, they need an outlet. And I want to show them that they have an outlet. That pen is their way out. And they will write their stories and they will share their stories and they will be like Street God. And they will come back to their communities and they will say, look, I made a mistake, but I'm not my mistake. And I made mistakes. Like you. I should have been arrested for a lot of the crimes that I did. Girl, we ain't gonna bring that up. You know, I can say, we changed women. But we changed. But the point of the matter is, I think God allowed us to go through that process so we can tell these kids that, yo, I did it. I've been there, done it, but I found that there was a better way. Turn your pain into passion. That's my whole motto right now is turning pain into passion. We're passion-filled people, right? So we take our pain and we turn it into passion, and that's what I'm about. Teaching these kids, if something gives you pain today, you can complain about it, or you can take that pain and you can turn it into passion. What does passion look like? It may be a book for you. It may be a painting for someone else. It may be a rap song for someone else. But what are you doing with your pain? Are you just taking your pain and letting it make more pain? Like, are you making love to pain over and over and over again? No, I'm going to take that pain, I'm going to turn it into passion. And that is my purpose when I go into my classroom. My advisory now, I have 11 boys. And sometimes I tell you, seeing those boys first period every day, you want to cry. Because it's like, every day you don't know what you're walking into. But the very fact that you know that they're coming to you, even though they say they don't want to be there, they're in that room, that's an opportunity for you to change a life. And that's something that I don't take lightly. That's my calling.
See that? You know, I'm sorry. I just get really emotional, and a lot of people, because I'm a jokester, they be like, oh, she's just playing, and I'm like, no, like that touched me in more ways than you can ever know, because like you said, God has put us, I don't believe, like, I've known her since 9th grade, right? But we serve such a mighty God that he knew that I would meet her in 9th grade. And he knew that I would have this radio show. And he knew that she would have what she's doing right now and turning the pain into passion. He knew all of this. He orchestrated all of this. And this just goes to show how the manifestation and the plans of God work. And it's a lot of people don't know. They don't listen to their calling. There's God is calling you, and sometimes you just say, oh, I'm not listening, or I'm thinking of something else. And this is what God is calling us to do. He is calling us to regain our youth, yes. Because our youth is what's going to rule this world. Yep. What happens when we're old and gray? The youth is going to be adults. And the way that they're going right now, it's for us to make sure that they go in the right path. Or even sometimes, you know what I realize with young adults and young kids is that they may not realize it at the time when you say it. But let me tell you something. When you plant that seed,
that's right.
It always grows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
That's right.
That's right.
You could plant a seed and it may not start growing till years later, that's but right. It will grow. It will grow. When that's a seed that God has helped you and put you in a position to plant, it will always grow. And that's what they need. We're lacking that. We're lacking these mentoring programs.
Yes.
We're lacking, it doesn't even have to be like you could just see a kid from your block and say, wow, I feel like they could do better. Start talking to them.
Exactly.
Start speaking to them.
Conversation.
A simple conversation. But what I love about your program and what you do is that it gives them an outlet to actually express themselves, because a lot of kids don't know how to express what they're feeling. They bottle it up. They don't know how to express it verbally. And like you said, it may be a pen to a paper. It may be a painting, a painting. It could be whatever it is, a song or something to that effect. But you are giving them that foundation to realize, how can I express what it is that I'm going through? So, Ty, you have any questions?
I have a son, and a lot, not a question but a comment, but it's like a lot of the things that I see on TV and I see happening to young boys, like it literally, like every day, more than one time a day, like I pray for my son, because it's like, as much as I try to maybe lead him in the right direction or show him the right things, you never know which way it can really go. Like, the only thing you really can do when raising a child, I'm starting to learn, is literally teach them all you know and pray for them. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, there's no telling which way it can go. And it really does scare me to think about what could possibly happen to him. Like, it scares the life out of him.
And that fear is real. And I'll tell you this, as a mom, after that situation with my son, his first arrest, it was a part of my brain that every time he didn't call, I panicked. Every time he didn't check in, I panicked. To the point that he said, yo, Mom, do you believe in God or you don't believe in God? Like, I made a mistake. I learned from my mistake, but let me grow now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like rebuilding that trust, but also knowing that you gotta let go, right? You make that foundation as clear and clean as it can be, and then you have to let them go. One thing my son said was that the pain that he saw, not only in his mom and his father's eyes, but his grandfather's eyes. Like, he saw his grandfather cry. He said, Ma, I never want to inflict that type of pain again on my family. And my son is going to be 18 next month. God bless his life. And I'm telling you, right now he's working with kids. And I said to him, I said, dude, like, this is your calling. You don't even see it. Like, you complain about working with kids, but look how well you work with kids. Like, you had to go through your process so you can be where you are, so you can tell those kids there's a better way. You know what I'm saying? And I always tell my boys, don't you ever again in your life make somebody else a victim. Don't. You understand what I'm saying? That is not why you were created. You were created to build people up. And that's, I see the change in him. And you have to keep on